Welcome to URL Unzip, Reboot, and Leave, a podcast about the psychology that moves us. Through real conversations with thinkers, doers, and seekers, we explore how we adapt, evolve, and find meaning. So let's unzip, reboot, and leave. Our guest today is an attorney, startup advisor, and real estate investor from Los Angeles. He is the co-founder and managing attorney Tier 1 Credit. He has a law degree from University of California. Today, we will explore the deeper psychology behind law, justice, truth, and how to know what is right and what is legal in this complicated world. Please welcome Shiva Bhaskar. So, Shiva, my first question to you is uh, most people don't take law seriously. This is from the consumer side until it's too late. Why?
You know, that's a great question. I think there's a few things and it ties in a lot to mindset. When we talk about consumer legal issues, let's say someone owes a debt and they haven't paid it, or there's a mistake on their credit report, but especially situations where they owe debt or they have too much debt and they're facing liability. Gautam, my experience is that the mind, most things we do are designed to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. And thinking about your legal issues and your debt and getting sued and having money taken out of your bank account, none of that is very pleasant. I think we would all agree. And as a result of that, people don't want to focus on it. And so I think a lot of it is a desire to procrastinate in order to put off the pain. The thing is, in some areas of life, I don't think in many areas of life, if you put off the pain, it'll eventually come to you. But in the area of law and consumer law, it really will come to you because if you put it off and you don't correct an error on your credit report, well, at some point you're going to need a loan of some sort or a credit of some sort and you'll get denied. Or if you owe a debt and you don't pay it and you're sued, well, then that other side will win automatically if you put it off. So I think it's out of a desire to avoid pain, the misunderstanding or avoidance being that often the pain that's incurred by putting it off will be even greater in the future. But it's a defense mechanism fundamentally. And with our clients, I see this. And so with a lot of them, we just tell them, hey, this is tough. I think you have to acknowledge, you have to hold two thoughts in your head as a consumer dealing with this or their attorney. This is hard, but there's a solution. And those two need to exist because if we don't acknowledge it's hard, then we're blinding ourselves. But if we don't say there's a solution, then there's no hope. You may as well give up. So it's kind of like keeping those two in mind and understanding you don't have time because the legal process creates deadlines and there's no way around those deadlines. I can't go to the judge and be like, Your Honor, my client was really stressed out, so she didn't want to deal with this. Can we reopen the case? It's going to say, no, get out of here. Right. So, yeah.
Okay, no, nice. Okay, do we need more culture of legal literacy? Because as a consumer, most of the time we think, oh, it's just a plain English, but it's not. Is it like a lawyer, they will stop that, or more legal literacy is not possible? Why it's so confusing for a normal person?
I think there's probably a few reasons. If you ask some people, they would say that's intentional to keep it inaccessible and make it difficult. And Gautam, I think there's some truth to that, but I don't think it's anything as intentional as that. In my view, it's that the law and the flow of sort of logic and in any Western country, Australia, UK, United States, or any Eastern country too, society is complex. Business is complex. Personal interactions are complex. It's inevitable that law, which is sort of the set of rules around those things, will be complex. But to your point about making it more accessible, um, I think that part of it is that government and society and entrepreneurs and nonprofits and others should do something. But I'm also very excited about AI because AI is going to make things more accessible. The caveat being that the training data it uses and the information that it compiles around the law is accurate. But I think if AI is optimizing for that and for that being accurate, then I think, I know people who are dealing with issues where here in the States, their landlord took a security deposit when they moved in. He didn't return it when they moved out. they went on ChatGPT and drafted a basic letter saying, hey, give it back to me or I'll see you in court. That wasn't possible without this. So AI really creates some potential, but ultimately we need to make sure that what it's putting out is accurate and that we continue educating people. So I think there's a role for education, but I also think technology is going to help as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now come to your sweet spot, which is credit scores. Okay. Now we all understand bits and pieces of it. Okay, when it is go bad and all these things. As a lawyer, please explain as to a layman what is credit
Sure.
scores or how it works.
So, so it's a very interesting it's a very interesting phenomenon what credit scores are trying to measure. So, what is not widely known about credit scores, and when I speak about these, I'm referring very specifically to the FICO score here in the United States, but I think the broader context is applicable in many places. Credit or FICO score is measuring the chances that you will get a key derogatory. That means that you will be 90 days or more late on a credit obligation. So the credit score is designed not to determine how good of a borrower you are, although you could say it is, but it's designed to determine more how likely you are to make a mistake and pay severely late and cause the lender to lose money, whether that's a car loan or a mortgage or a credit card. So it measures the risk of non-payment. And the way it does that is by looking at your payment history, looking at your debt, looking at how often you open credit and apply for credit, looking at your mix of credit. It doesn't look at your income. It doesn't look at your race, gender, religion, where you live, any of that. It looks at your financial behavior and the length of that and what it shows. And based on a series of that, the algorithm is designed to assess that. So fundamentally, credit score is about risk. And credit scores lie at the basis of the consumer financial system because Gotham, as you know, if someone came to you, not a friend or relative, but someone else said, hey, can you loan me X amount of money? And it's a substantial sum, you would want to know their capacity for paying it back. The credit score allows us to find that. And so uh, it's very important because certainly here in the States, even if you say, hey, I don't need to use debt, I'm going to use cash, and you're so rich and you have cash to buy a house and all, well, credit score can impact your auto insurance rate. Okay. If you don't own a house and you want to rent, it impacts where you can rent. So it's fundamentally about the risk you pose in your financial behavior, is what it is. And that's why it's so important, is because even for job applications, a lot of jobs check your credit in the States. So it's fundamentally it's about, yeah, your chances of paying, but it's more about what they're trying to measure is your character for responsibility as a person. That's really what they're looking at a deeper level.
Hmm. So yeah, most people they don't have this like full understanding of it, or
Mhm.
do they? I mean, they don't understand fully the whole game. I mean, bits and pieces they understand. Is it as you said before, like is it intentional, little bit, or is it design flaw?
I think it's both. I think it's both.
Right.
I think it's intentional in one sense, which is here in the States, you can go to a good high school, good college. Okay. I had a chance to go to both. You're not going to have someone teach you about these things. In my case, it was a mix of, okay, you see your parents consistently pay debts, all that, people around you, or you research on your own. But they don't teach this in school. So, particularly high school, where I think it's really important, because if someone doesn't go on to university, but they go out into the workforce, this knowledge would be good for them to have so that they can still live their life and be productive and be financially secure. So I think part of it's intentional because we don't focus on this in school. How do you balance your books? How do you protect your credit? Um, things like that. We don't teach it. So part of it's that people just don't necessarily want to learn things or it sounds boring to them. And until they're forced to deal with it, they don't. So I think it's a mix of both. People need to take more initiative, but it's also about they're not taught in school. So how do you deal with it? Yeah.
Mm, okay. Where do things get messy in the world of credit and debt? Can you give us some
Mhm.
like a big picture around it?
Here's where it gets messy. When someone doesn't pay their debts, because two things happen. Number one, their credit score drops dramatically, and that has a cascade effect. Because here in the United States, at least, and I think in many other countries, your existing creditors are allowed to check your credit report. So, Gautam, let's say that you have a card with Citibank. another card with Barclays, another card with um, Bank of America. If you stop paying Bank of America for 6 months, American Express, or sorry, Barclays and Citibank can check your credit every so often, and they're going to see you didn't pay it. And they may close your card or reduce your limit or something like that. You might also be denied for other cards. You could have trouble moving to a new job, okay? Moving to a new apartment. So you don't pay it, and then you have that's the credit score risk. Then you have the legal risk, which is that Bank of America after 6 months when it's charged off, meaning it's treated as a loss for tax purposes. Bank of America hires a law firm and they show up in your local court and they sue you. And if they win that case, and they probably will, even if you show up, they probably will if you don't settle, then in most US states, they can take a portion of your paycheck from your job. They can, the sheriff or law enforcement legally, Bank of America pays a fee to the sheriff or the marshal in the county or city where you live, and they tell your employer, and your employer has to divert and send part of your paycheck to them. Also, they can go to your bank and attach it to your bank account and drain money and take out part of your money. So, really, when you stop paying, why do people stop paying? Usually, a job loss is a big one, a life event like divorce, health issue, divorce, health issue, job loss are big ones. But it's a cascade because your credit goes down, creditors might close things, and then you face the legal risk of being sued, and then you can't access more credit to get out of it. So, not to be negative, but it hits people very fast and very hard.
So is there any early sign? I mean, okay, we can understand lack of cash flow will basically cascade to it, but is there any early sign to it?
I guess the biggest early one that I would see is if you can predict or think about what would lead to the lack of cash flow. Like, do we know certain jobs are insecure right now? For example, uh, probably a lot of us know people in the hospitality and hotel space. Well, if you've been following in American cities like Las Vegas, the tourism is down quite a bit of people going there. So we might say there's more risk of layoffs in the hospitality job. Then what do? Right? People are going to lose the job, and then we know they're going to default. So if I were a creditor and I'm looking at Las Vegas, and certain occupations in Las Vegas, I might say, okay, there's a chance that something could happen soon. That's not to say that they should start closing the card of everyone who works in a hotel, but those are things. I think if people are having relationship and marital difficulties, those are a good indicator because if they break up and both their incomes were required to pay the debt, then you have a problem. And I've seen this firsthand with friends whose relationship or marriage ended and that. So looking at life events, if someone has a major health issue and they don't have a ton of savings, that's usually a good assessor of this happening. So yeah.
Okay. Now I move to the next section, which is
Mhm.
around AI and law. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so could AI make law more accessible to everyday person, or it will create a new kind of digital gatekeeping?
I think it could be both, but I lean more towards making it more accessible. And here's my thinking behind it. AI got them as not being an expert, full disclosure to your audience, but I do use AI as we all do. AI at the core is assembling data and inputs and learning to think and become intelligent off of those. And eventually AI may far exceed that. I mean, we keep hearing about AGI and some companies, some platforms like Anthropic and others may hit it. We'll see. But fundamentally, it's about taking all the knowledge that's out there and then utilizing that knowledge, not just to give you answers, but to think clearly based on the inputs and questions you give it. So as I shared earlier, the example of the security deposit for the apartment wasn't returned and they used AI to do it. Well, AI was looking at all the knowledge out there about security deposits and then thinking about the inputs they gave, like, hey, I have photos showing there's no damage to the unit. I have this, I have that. And it's thinking about it and giving you an answer. And so I think AI will make a lot of things more accessible. I think two people have to reach an agreement or a contract for something very basic. They don't have to hire a lawyer now prepared by actual attorneys, and it can prepare a pretty good one. Now, would I use that for a term sheet for venture capital or buying a company? No, of course not, but we know we need lawyers for that. But for basic things, yes. And I also think it's not just about accessibility, but I think cost is a factor. If your attorney, here in the US, we have the discovery process, or anywhere in Australia, everywhere. When you sue someone, the court says, well, we need to know the facts here and know what happened. Both sides have to produce documents and papers showing evidence in the case. Well, if you request those discovery requests from someone, before it used to be you have to write it out manually, it takes a long time. Now, Gautam, you can share 10 similar cases and what the discovery requests were, and AI will come up with 90%, 95% of it. Your lawyer puts in the other 5% and sends it off to the other lawyer. Versus before, you had to pay your lawyer for 10 hours of work to go do that. Now, that goes down, or theoretically it should, because now the lawyer who's trying to charge you per hour is not going to be able to do that. Or maybe they could charge per hour, but they focus on some other part of the case and you pay less overall. So it'll create more accessibility, both in terms of knowledge and in terms of cost, because there will be cost savings. I know someone who was at an event you and I both were at, who was working on software around legal discovery and making that easier. Well, if someone deploys his software as a lawyer, now the law firm cannot sit there and tell their client, we need to bill you 10 hours for this when it took them 14 minutes. So I think that'll increase accessibility in terms of costs, and also for individuals navigating the legal system, it'll help and make it easier. Now, can it lead to gatekeeping? Yeah, because law firms and corporations and others will use AI to make things tougher. I think we mentioned earlier someone being sued on a debt. Well, guess what? AI is making it easier to locate people and their assets and find out what they own and all of that. So now, before, I had to put a lot more effort into finding someone and learning their financial situation. Now I can track them down a lot more easily using all the data there is and tell AI, I'm going to give you someone's name and their former address. Find me everything about this person. AI is getting to that point, especially the private systems. It'll do all of that. So those are the things to keep in mind. Companies will use it, but individuals will use it. And hopefully, somewhere in there, we create a more level playing field.
Hmm. I was watching somewhere. I didn't get it whether it is acted fully or it was really happened. Which is one guy. He went to a court and he said, "My attorney is AI. He is not a person. He will actually do the case for me." Okay, let's say it didn't happen. How far we are from there that this AI avatar actually fighting a case for you, or is it possible at all?
I don't think we're far at all, with one clarification. It depends on the type of case. For example, I think a case involving a jury of 12 people or six, or it depends on the country you're in, you probably want to have your attorney there with jury selection, but your attorney will be using AI to research each of these jurors. Here in the States, there was a movie called The Runaway Jury back around 2003, and he was surveilling all the people and gathering all this data on them who were going to be on the jury in a major case, which had a lot of money on the line. The truth is, Gautam, if you gave people's names, the attorney can stand in court. I always imagine it with a Google Glass or something similar. Look, see that person's face, pull their entire history and data. We're not far from that. So AI will be able to run large parts of the case. And a smaller or more simple case, it might. What AI cannot necessarily pick up on, and where I think good lawyers will still have advantage, especially in litigation and lawsuits, is understanding people, understanding a jury, understanding a judge, all of that. AI will make AI may lead to 60, 70%. I think attorneys using AI may get 60% of their work done, and make it easier. Discovery will be easier. Writing the lawsuit complaint will be easier. Exchanging documents and compiling will be easier. But the idea of getting in front of the judge and the jury and explaining, I think you can use AI, but you will still need people. They can read what AI says, but they need to understand the argument, because it's no good if I use AI and AI says blah, 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 but you need to understand. So you could use AI for that. You could go to GPT or Claude or Gemini and say, okay, Claude, tell me, if the judge asks me this question, or the other lawyer says this, how do I counter it? And the AI now can think and say, okay, they brought up that argument. Here's your argument. And then you say, hey, what about this? So the AI is getting better and better at feeding it. I actually think you're going to start to see attorneys, we go to court, you're in trial in the morning, then you take a lunch break, then you come back. I think you're going to see attorneys saying, hey, this attorney, she or he is saying this and that. What can I say to counter it? I think people are going to use it. Fully autonomous, we're not there, but I think attorneys and individuals using it to do most of the case, I don't think we're more than 4 or 5 years away, if not sooner.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
you actually touched upon it, but I would like to hear more on it. So, law is often seen as rigid and procedural, okay?
Mhm,
Yet, justice is human and emotional, okay?
mhm.
How do you or system reconcile these two forces, you know?
That's a tough one. Um, you're exactly right about the nature of the law. It is that. Uh, but yet we're dealing with people, and this is fundamentally about people. I'll apply my own practice here. So, what I like to tell people, and it's the truth, I say, you have a story. We all have a story. And that story feeds into and is part of the reason why whatever happened in your case happened, why you didn't pay this debt, why you're being sued, why your credit's bad. You have that story. And that story interacts with the law. And the law does not vary necessarily. It does vary for each person's story and to set that each person has a set of facts. But if I have 4 years in the state of California, 4 years after you stop paying your credit card company can sue you. Well, the fact that you say you had a medical issue for 2 years and you're in the hospital, that's terrible. But it doesn't mean they can't sue you. They're not barred from that. What it does mean is you could file bankruptcy, or you could do something else, or you could settle for this, or you could ask for hardship and maybe they accommodate. But so I tell people, you have your story and I want to know your story. It's not that your personal thing doesn't matter, but understand that the law could not operate if it made exceptions for everyone. So we have to figure out what in your story and in your situation is going to get you the best result. So people will tell me it's so unfair. I said it is unfair because you didn't ask to get sick or you didn't ask to lose your job. But the thing is that happened, and this is what the law says. I can't tell the judge it's unfair. Judge is going to say it's unfair for every single person who's sitting here. Unfortunately, that's the truth. How do we use it? So you have to tell people, look, these are the rules. What happened to you is real. We're acknowledging it, but that's not enough. We can't win your case off of just acknowledging it, right, Gautam? We need to acknowledge it and then say, how do we tie the two together? So that's how I look at it,
Mm,
is how do we tie the two together?
okay, so now I'm slowly moving into a little bit of a philosophical side of it, or the truth
Sure.
side of it. The law often protects speech, but does it do enough to protect truth?
I will give an answer that's based on my own philosophical slash political views. I don't think it's the role. I'll put it this way. The role of the law in protecting truth is around creating avenues where when we disagree about the truth or about what happened, that we can have a fair hearing. So what I mean is this. If there's a business dispute between two people, okay? We need to create a forum to do it. If someone says something false about another person, okay, we need to create, it'll say to the court, if that person's harmed by the falsehood, they can sue and show up in court, and we can hear from each side and they present their evidence and we can reach a consensus truth. So the role of the law is to get to the truth, but I believe the law's main job when it comes to that balance of speech and truth is to protect free expression. The only exception that I would see for it is where you're talking about a major public safety issue. If someone says, go burn the building, go do this, fire in a crowded theater is the example we've often heard. Oliver Wendell Holmes in the United States, the major, he was a Supreme Court justice. He said that. I think you need to have a narrow rule where if someone violates that and they cause active harm by incitement or something, then yes, that's forbidden. But outside of that, people saying things that are false or wrong or any of that, I think should be permissible. I think what we need, the solution to bad speech is more speech. I think if someone is lying and someone is not telling the truth, we need more people who have the freedom to tell the truth. Because my concern is this, Gotham, if we say, hey, truth, then it becomes whoever's in charge decides what the truth is. Well, if I don't like who's in charge today in any particular country and she or he is deciding what the truth is, it's a problem. What we need is open ability to share ideas. If people are lying and people are not telling the truth, they should be called out for that and they should be shamed for that. And they should not be believed for it, but they should be free to say it. Now, the exception to that is I don't believe in free speech in the court. You get in front of the judge, you need to tell the truth, otherwise you should be prosecuted. But in society and politics, people should tell the truth. But if they don't, the best solution is more speech, more of that. And if people lie about someone and cause harm, that should be something that we allow them to go to court for. But what I don't think is that if a politician says something and another politician says something else, and an individual in the public says this politician's an idiot and this person's that, I think those things should be free and people should be allowed to say it. I think when there's a major falsehood, we should use the legal system to say if you were harmed by that falsehood, you have the right to sue.
Mm,
For example, someone advertises a product and it's false. Well, truth in advertising is fair. You have the right to make claims about a product, but if they're false and someone buys your product, you should be able to sue. So allow for a lot of free speech, but where someone doesn't tell the truth and it really harms another person, allow them to sue. That's what I think is fair.
Okay, nicely put. What is the future of misinformation and this digital propaganda?
Realistically, it's only going to get worse, as I would guess. Uh, but that at the first level, it looks like it'll get worse because now we can make fake videos with AI. Those videos are only going to get better. The audio is only going to get better. So it'll get worse. At the same time, human beings have existed for lies and truth have both existed for all of human history. Okay. People were writing on the walls and doing hieroglyphics. They were writing the religious books. They were doing all of that. And they were putting their thoughts into some form of expression, whether verbal or written, for as long as people have been around. So Gautam, if the lies spread, well, people have an interest in the truth spreading too. It may become that someone says, hey, I'm going to use AI and verification and fact checking and a platform where we verify for truth based on the broader, because AI is pulling in more and more knowledge too, and more facts and more data. So maybe people create platforms where they say, hey, we use AI and the power of AI and the power of the truth and the knowledge out there to tell you whether this is true or not. Run any piece of content through here and get the real truth about it based on the verifiable facts. Well, that won't solve everything because people will still lie, and more than that, people believe what they want to believe. But I think there is enough that people want the truth, and the truth, the line will grow, but our capacity to innovate towards truth will grow also. I think there is such and fundamental thing, and there's a very good debate that was about this, which I'll send you, and you may find, and your audience may find interesting. Barry Weiss of the Free Press, she's a commentator here in the U.S. She held a debate with the gentleman who's the founder of Perplexity, the AI software, along with another Stanford professor, a venture capitalist, and they were debating truth and lies in the age of AI. And they had a fantastic conversation. But what it came down to was people can lie more, yes, but it's not a one-way street. AI and technology will also have people who are good people who want to facilitate the truth more, and they'll build technologies designed to look for that. So I think it'll compete.
I guess it's the same thing. Like a crime only happens the very end of a bell curve. They are
Mhm.
highly
Correct. And we
these.
have crime. We have the police too. We have people who dedicate their life to solving and preventing crime and protecting the public. Well, in entrepreneurship, we've had entrepreneurs who built companies that, I mean, look, we have phone in our pocket, we have email. You and I can talk on this platform from we met in California, but we're here. You're in Australia, I'm in Los Angeles. People build technology for great human good. I believe that people will build technology that will help facilitate the truth and bring us closer to it also, because there are good people in the world of technology who want to do that. So yeah,
Nice, very positive way. So we are almost in the wrapping up stage.
sure.
So the last question to you is how we should approach what is right or what is legal.
What is right and what is legal? I like this question a lot because you know and I know that there's a difference between the two. I mean, there are situations you can write a very good contract between two people that says that, you can do X, Y, and Z and they don't have a ton of rights and this and that. You can do that if you want, and you can get away with a lot. And that's a reality. What is right and what is legal? I think at a very fundamental level, it's about how people are brought up. It's about how their parents, their community, their schools, all of those educate them. I think it's about what we prioritize in society. People have always done the right thing, and some people have always done the wrong thing. So both are going to balance. But what's right and what's legal? We should try to make that what's right and what's legal align more and more so that the two are very close to each other. But the truth is, as a lawyer, I can say people will always, particularly in the world of business, want to find a way to do something that is legal but may not be right. That's the truth. And if they have resources and lawyers, lawyer, you know, I'll be critical of my own profession. A lot of lawyers facilitate a bigger gap between what is right and what is legal. Because if you have the money to pay them and they understand the law, they'll think about how far apart we can keep the two so that you can get away. You've got a car or a truck and you want to be able to drive on the one side of the road I have right, on the one side I have legal. These guys want to widen and widen the road that you can drive. You can drive not a small truck, but you can drive a huge, hauling truck through it. But as much as that's true, how do we improve the law? It's by choosing good people and thoughtful people to be in political office, to be judges, okay, to be lawyers. So bringing the two together, I think it's fundamentally about A, educating people, and B, if we believe there's something in the law that's being misused, then how do we bring people into government who are going to solve it partially into the legal system at the judge level? And also, how do we educate our fellow citizens? Because in a democratic society, it starts with the fellow citizens. It starts with you telling your friend and your neighbor, hey, I think this is wrong. This is something the law is allowing that's not right. And then you guys agree, and then you talk to your parliament representative, and then the parliament thinks about it and changes it. Okay. And it takes a long time. Or the judges look at it and say, this isn't right. I don't think the law is supposed to work this way. And then they work it out. So fundamentally, it's about all of us seeing what's wrong, talking to others about it, finding ways to bring it to the attention of the courts and of the politicians, and then demanding accountability. Because the truth is, every system can be beautifully built. You're in Australia, I'm in the United States. All these countries, they have great democratic traditions, but to make the law effective, we have to study. India, same thing. India is democracy. UK is a democracy. Lots of places are democratic, but you need to bring the legal system and the political system and get involved to do it. So I think
And I
it's
think,
fundamentally going to be around how we do that. Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's a same age-old struggle between ethics and morality. I mean, ethics, you can write pages after pages after pages, but if you don't have the morality to act upon it, then, things can go whack. So,
And how do we teach people that fundamental idea of be good, be decent, the ideas that exist across all the ethical and religious traditions in various ways? How do you apply that and get people to apply it? I mean, that's been the human struggle. And so people are pointing to AI right now as how AI will lead to truth, misinformation. How does the law facilitate it? Well, law is fundamentally about people and about the people together in society. So the way to have better laws is to encourage people to behave better. And that's the struggle we've dealt with for thousands of years. So, yeah.
all right. So on that, thank you, Shiva. Thank you for your time. Hope our audience will get some nuggets out of it, and we will talk more down the line around laws.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Gotham. Really enjoyed it.